Radio in motion. Program loading in 3, 2, 1. Program activated.
Attention everyone, the unpleasant noise you are about to hear coming from your radio is not a mistake.
Okay, first things first, what is your name?
This is Big Sonny playing the best of the 90s and beyond.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah. Radio in motion.
Please do not turn off your radio, but turn up the volume on your receiver as high as it can go.
All right, here we go.
Radio in motion.
All right, welcome back to the show. Thanks for joining me tonight on 90s Drive. But right now we're going to have another installment of The Ugly Truth. And the truth can be ugly, folks, but it can set you free. And I'm serious with that. I'm going to talk about that. So in a bit, I'm going to talk about a report that came out in The Lancet, which is a medical journal. Now, you know, doctors do tend to reference medical journals. I'm not saying that they are the Bible, but they certainly keep a close eye on those because it's really about their peers writing, you know, actual papers based on, you know, trials and facts and data and science and math and hopefully the truth. So that's an important one. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then also we're going to talk about Kansas, the state of Kansas in the U.S., I think joined by a couple of other states as well, is suing Pfizer. That's pretty serious. But first, I just wanted to talk about the truth in general. And also, you know, COVID was one of those things that's so divisive. It makes me sad. I think for most of us, and me included, of course I want to move on with my life. I just want to enjoy life. And when I talk about these things, I don't do it to bring up stress. I do it because, you know, we went through a huge ordeal worldwide. And as much as we all absolutely are moving on and slowly getting out of that, we can't deny that what happened has lasting effects on us for our whole lives. And the worst thing of all is I think everyone has this natural ability to smell a lie, but I think we deny it. We deny that immediate instinct that you can tell when something's just not quite right. But when fear is used, I've talked about this before, especially when fear is used by those, you know, in charge, supposedly in charge, the illusion of being in charge, let me tell you they're not. It's easy to get caught up in it and be afraid, and whatever you hear just sort of panics you. But the truth, you know, is important, and facts are important. And one of the things I've said before is, you know, it's a famous saying from Roman times, God knows the Romans knew how to throw a good party and throw a good government, which is give the people bread and circuses, and they'll want for nothing. I mean, that's essentially, you know, keep them occupied with something else. Look over here at this pretty shiny thing and don't notice the horrible things happening in your life. You know, it's about distraction. How could you translate that to today? I would say it's tantamount to call it, you know, fast food and mainstream media. Both distractions, you know what I mean? Social media, fast food, anything that's just you're consuming, something that just makes you immediately happy. You're online, you're playing a game, you're just consumed by that. You go to McDonald's, you eat your food, and you're happy with that. And mainstream media, you just consume it and you're like, sure, that must be the truth. And let me tell you, folks, mainstream media is the circus, okay? And, you know, if you solely base everything in your life as far as what you think is happening in the world on mainstream media alone, I hate to tell you, folks, but you should broaden your horizons. That's all I'm going to say. Again, as I tell everyone, if I ever have an opinion or I have a guest or I'm talking to someone, always do your own research. You do the fact finding. Don't ever just believe someone. Don't take anything at face value. And especially mainstream media. At least spread that around until you find something that you think is actually tangible and true to you. Another thing I wanted to talk about is a lot of the words and phrases, especially thrown out during the pandemic, which we're still in apparently, is science, having faith in science. Trust the science. As I say, I don't think those two words should ever go together. You should, and by the way, anything I talk about here in no way translates to anyone like the medical community at all. Doctors and nurses and anyone in the medical community, they absolutely were the front line, and they work their butts off to do their best to try to catch up with everything that was happening. None of this comes down to them. All right, that's first of all. Obviously, you should find a medical clinician in your life and those you trust. That's where the trust should come into play. But should you trust the science or moving at the speed of science? These are ridiculous phrases. Like I've said before, science at its very nature is meant to be discussed and disproven and proven every day. Ask questions. You ask enough questions until it becomes so solid, then you can at least call it fact. For now, you should never say trust. I think more and more often science has become the new religion, and it's become an ideology, and that's why you say things like faith. I have faith in the science. I have an understanding that if someone does a test enough times, if gravity is proven and it keeps working 99.9 times out of 100, or dare I say 100 times out of 100, I would say that that's a fact of life, as immutable as gravity. But trust and faith, I don't think they align with science. So again, let me get that out of the way. And when I talk about things like COVID, yes, the whole world was catching up with so much, and so much happened, and we had so many rules put around us. I'm happy to forgive. Again, as more and more things come out over the years, and they will, and you'll find out. It's up to you how much you want to get involved in it. Maybe you don't want to get involved at all, then certainly don't listen to this. But if you're interested in just finding out some of the actual facts that affected your life over such a long period and are still affecting it to this day, then I say, like with anything, you should find it in your heart to forgive. But I'm going to be honest, don't forget. I'm not going to forget. I will never forget. I'm sorry. I will never forget the masks and the social distancing and the lockdowns. All of these things were thrown at us as absolute fact. But the fact is, most of these things, as we're finding out now, and again, look these things up for yourself, they were based on nothing. They were based on no actual research and no data. Social distancing, that wasn't something that was actually based on anything except a hunch. That's a fact. Look that up. That's coming straight out of the Anthony Fauci from the U.S. Things like herd immunity, they lied to you about that. It was all about you had to get the vaccine. And that was the other thing. There's YouTube videos that are still up as of right now that say they're just going after people, that you are the devil if you don't get the vaccine. By the way, again, let me submit this. I'm in no way an anti-vaxxer. There are medications out there, and there are medical miracles that save people every day. That's different than what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about, I think never underestimate the government to cash in on a good tragedy or a pandemic. It happened, and I think a lot of people saw the opportunity. So again, with the vaccine, you get the vaccine and it stops with you. There are videos that are still out there like that. Well, it's funny how people are on their 10th booster now. So it took 10, huh? How many is it going to take? 20? Obviously, as you know now, it was 100% a leaky vaccine. The whole world was going to get it anyway, but they lied to you about the vaccine and herd immunity and the fact that any healthy adult had no need to get it because, frankly, COVID was no more than a mild cold to you. Okay? Don't even get me started on kids, people trying to vaccinate young kids. If you were 90 and you already had these comorbidities and respiratory problems and heart problems, if you were already kind of on the way out, frankly, the common cold or the flu would have probably pushed you over the edge. But again, I won't get too deep into that, but just keep that in mind. Don't forget that. And don't forget that Pfizer, although, again, of course, there are drugs that are helping people and they're miracles. But Pfizer did make $100 billion, $37.8 billion actually just on the COVID vaccines. So I'm going to be honest. You have to understand two things can be true at the same time. At the heart of it, a company like that, I wouldn't say they don't get into business to go, let's do bad things. No, but power, it is an overwhelming thing. Power and money, you can't deny that. Nobody can deny that. And the problem is the people with power, It wasn't just about your government. It wasn't just about Dan Andrews or Joe Biden in the States or Anthony Fauci all over the world, Australia, US, UK. It was about an overarching, just those in power. And that does include the CDC and the World Health Organization. You think, oh, why would that be? They're only here to help us. They like to keep their power because nobody wants to lose their power once they have it. So I'm just saying a lot of this was drunk with power. And a lot of the mandates that came down, it wasn't about moving at the speed of science, because let me tell you what, for anyone who says, oh, but they didn't know, they were moving at the speed of science. The fact is, my friends, they knew a lot more, a lot earlier than you have any idea about. And that's the problem. So again, like I say, just give us the facts, you know. I think, again, the powers that be, they really do treat the people like their children. They need to coddle us. We're just so stupid. How could we possibly understand? And there's also those that believe, that an individual is smart, but a group of people, are panicky wild animals. I'm not going to deny that, but I think in the end, if you start with the truth, you're going to get a better outcome, because I do believe this as well. I believe in something called natural law. I believe in the end, the truth comes out. Everything balances out as it should. Like one of my favorite TV judges, Judge Judy, she says, you have to be really smart to to tell a lie, because you have to keep track of them all. But the truth is easy, because you just recall it. Sure, the car is blue, because it was a blue car. When you're starting to lie, they all pile up. So I think by natural law, this is what happens. So I want to get into this first of all. Yeah, so Kansas, and this is unprecedented, are actually suing Pfizer for misleading the public. So in February 2021, and again, look this up yourself, Pfizer had a report. So for 458 pregnant women who received the COVID vaccine during pregnancy, more than half reported an adverse effect, and more than 10% reported a miscarriage. Again, I'm just saying, there are a lot of the things that people say, oh, well, there's always a margin for everything. There's a small margin, and that small margin in a large enough group, in billions, it could be hundreds, and that's not bad. Folks, that's a little bit too much when more than half reported an adverse effect, okay? And again, they knew this, yet they still, to this day, the CDC says the COVID vaccine is safe and effective. By all means, get your 20th booster, whomever you are. Keep that in mind too. So also, Pfizer regularly ignored any adverse effects of myocarditis and pericarditis. Obviously, heart attacks, heart problems, heart disease. On January 18th, 2023, COVID CEO Albert Bourla was asked, about the vaccine, point blank. Had you seen any adverse effects at all? And quoted saying, "We have not seen a single signal, although we have distributed billions of doses." Now, a signal is a safety signal referring to a negative consequence from the vaccine. Now, if they were going to lie, they at least should have said, sure, we saw a few, because that's how it works. For any sort of medication or vaccine or anything medically, there's always a risk. I'm not going to deny that. Everyone knows that. Nothing is 100% certain. You go in for surgery, they can do everything right, and for whatever reason, it can still come out bad. I'm not an idiot. This is true. But don't treat us like idiots. Why would you say, again, to say this to open court or Congress, to say they didn't see a single signal? That's not true. And also, when they were questioned point blank about the fact that they marketed this as, especially, you remember all the TV ads, again, don't forget, you are risking everyone else's life if you're not vaccinated, because you get the vaccine, just one, and it stops with you. COVID stops with you. Again, 20th booster, folks. Yes, Pfizer urged everyone to get it. The vaccine stops with you. Pfizer admitted later that they never actually studied transmission effects. So they were giving you that Again, I'm just saying two things can be true. They were in it for the right reasons, but they sure did see that $37.8 billion at the end of the rainbow there. Also, think about this one. Pfizer declined to join the government's program, which was Operation Warp Speed, because they wanted to liberate their scientists. They didn't want any government oversight. Let me tell you, you got to worry if the company is worried about government oversight, which is pretty crappy as it is, because they wanted to skirt around any oversight. I'm just saying, do any of these things sound wholesome and positive to you? So look, that's what's happening right now. And I want to get to this other one. So this is the Lancet report. So a little bit of history about the Lancet. It began as an independent international weekly general medical journal, founded in 1823. So I'd say when they publish something, they're not doing it just haphazardly. And I will bring that up. So this is from, now also so many doctors and virologists, actual virologists, the people who actually study viruses and vaccines, when they spoke up about things they were finding, they were shut down and canceled. And isn't that a bit sad? The actual people that we should have been listening to. So this is William Mackis. This is a doctor. I'm reading this from his Twitter account. It says, breaking news, our Lancet censored paper is now peer-reviewed and available online. Well, let me see how important that is. Peer-reviewed means they are quite happy for anyone to follow their research and try to prove it wrong. Remember what I said before? Science wants to be proven wrong and proven right. So it's been peer-reviewed. So you can't say, oh, anyone can just write a paper, a bunch of maniacs with a certain narrative. No, they want the medical community to follow their research. That already shows you their intentions. So a systematic review of autopsy findings and deaths after COVID-19 vaccination, 325 autopsy cases, they found that 73.9% of deaths were directly due or significantly contributed to by COVID-19 vaccinations. So let that sink in, because as of right now, remember, World Health Organization, CDC, say the vaccine is safe and effective. Let's get jabbed. Let's get jabbed, baby. Our data suggests a high likelihood of causal link between COVID-19 vaccination and death. This is a victory of science over censorship. And I agree. So they published this paper, and they also said specifically Pfizer put pressure on Lancet to redact it and take it down. But it's back up again. And again, I'm not trying to stress you or start a conspiracy theory. I'm just trying to give you facts so that you feel a bit better that you weren't losing your mind during the pandemic, that the things you might have thought that your friends canceled you for, and I know they did. It's happened to so many people. By the way, I'm following this story up from Jimmy Dore. He's one of my favorite celebrities. He's just a comedian who decided to just follow the facts, and he says himself all the time he was canceled by other Hollywood comedians, all the the shills in Hollywood who were happy to just keep pushing the narrative. Jimmy Kimmel, Jon Stewart, God love them, but you can't cross them because they'll call you a conspiracy theorist, a racist, any sort of ist. You're done for, and that's sad when just you're just trying to search for the facts. But yeah, it says our paper was delayed by 1 year, and those actions of censorship and cancellation led to many deaths that could have been prevented. And that's quite sad. So here's again a couple of the more details. So this means from vaccination to death was also about 14.3 days. Most deaths occurred within a week from the last vaccine administered. A total of 240 deaths, 73.9%, were independently adjudicated as directly due to or significantly contributed by the COVID-19 vaccination, of which the primary causes of death included sudden cardiac death, 35%, pulmonary embolism, 12.5%, myocardial infarction, 12%. Again, I mean, this is the sad part, that again they assume that we all just panicky, and we just don't know what's good for us. We have to listen to, and again, I would never say this. I would never say do not listen to your trusted medical practitioner or anyone in that community. I'm talking about the overarching, like I say, the World Health Organization, the CDC, and all the governments trying to push all these rules and the lockdowns, which again, most of them were based on bullcrap. So again, it is, you know, it's quite bad. So the conclusions are the consistency seen among cases in this review with known COVID-19 vaccine mechanisms of injury and death, coupled with autopsy confirmation by physician adjudication, suggests there is a high likelihood of causal link between COVID-19 vaccines and death. Further, and again, they end it with this, further urgent investigation is required for the purpose of clarifying our findings. So that is the important part right there for anyone who thinks that they're just trying to prove a point and get in on the conspiracy theory game. When someone wants a paper peer-reviewed and they want everyone to look at it, they're crying out for people to look at it. You've got to think there's got to be something there. So again, you know, I'm just reading these things, and I always tell you to follow it up yourself. But it just makes me sad that we still live in such a modern, amazing world of technology, and that includes medical science. Amazing things, amazing people behind it. Like I say, the people that worked at clinics and hospitals and everyone, they are the heroes that certainly, absolutely saved lives. But I'm just focusing on the big pharma companies that, again, maybe in their heart, they didn't start out with these intentions, but they sure ended up in a world of bad intentions, you know, based on all of this. And again, like I say, it really did divide family and friends. Can you believe that? Something like this, would you ever have thought you would have lost friends and family over it? But people did. To this day, people still, they don't want to hear it. They get triggered. They don't want to argue about it. But I say, I would like to go on with my life and enjoy the rest of my life. But I'd also like to find out some more facts, which frankly, we will find out more and more as the years to come. We probably won't find out some of the real frightening data a decade from now. But like I say, I don't want you to sit here and be obsessed over it, but I just want you to be aware. So when this happens again, when anything similar happens again, I'm just going to say, have a think about it. I'm not asking you to start a coup or a revolution, but I'm just saying I'm fairly passionate about freedom, and freedom as an inalienable right. You understand what that means? It can't be taken from you. It is glued to you. It is part of you. Your freedom is an absolute inalienable right, as in speech. And I hate that term. I've said this before, disinformation. That drives me nuts. The minute you start going down the road of disinformation, you end up into an Orwellian 1984 world of the Ministry of Truth. And these things actually exist by other names, fact checkers. Fact checkers based on if you pay someone enough, they'll fact check it the right way for you. Look, as much as there is facts, there also can be misleading facts. I say, why don't you let the people use their brain to figure it out for themselves? But you can't. We're not smart enough. We're all just panicky animals, right? So that's what worries me too, is that we are living in a world where you're going to hear things like disinformation. There is only information. You decide what's true and what's not true. That's your freedom. That's your right. And I always say, respect that. Freedom of speech does come at a cost. Whether you're in Australia or America, especially in America, I suppose, because you see a lot more very divisive actions there. If you love your country, as you should, especially, it's funny, most people who love America, they are actually immigrants. And I mean someone who really came from like Cuba or somewhere where there is a real dictatorship and war-torn countries, and they have come to live that American dream. They are proud to raise that flag. And you have to do that right next to someone who's possibly burning the flag. That is possibly the most prime example of freedom of speech. You don't have to agree with both. You can agree with one or the other, but you can't stop the other one from expressing that either. That's a fact. The minute you stop one, the minute you quash one and say, this is misinformation, this is disinformation, this is hate speech, another one. Some things that people say hurt people. Some things that people say make people happy. Once you decide which one is bad, who decides? Who decides? Is that for you? You're a genius on what you decide is hate speech, because hate speech is ever evolving. If someone says, hey, I don't like you, you're tall and goofy, I'm triggered by that, and I call that hate speech. I would like them to be thrown in jail. Why? Why do you think that's crazy? I'm 6'5". I'm offended by that. I'm so offended that I've taken it to court, and I've made sure that person that said that to me is thrown in jail. Don't think I'm that far off that these things aren't happening, because they are happening. These things will slowly roll out, and they will become laws, and finally, the words that come out of your mouth, as innocent as they are, just by pointing something out, that man is tall, you could go to jail. Again, that's not a big leap, folks. We're almost there. So I say there is only freedom of speech. There is only freedom. And it is an inalienable right that is part of you. And it really is, I hate to say it, it is literally your duty to keep that going. It is. You can't give up. You can't give up. You have to keep going. And I've also said this before, whether you think it's about right or wrong, good and evil, I just think it's about anyone with good intentions towards their fellow human. And there's people with ill intentions. It really is as simple as that. You can call it light and dark, you can call it whatever you want, but I think for you right now, surround yourself with those good people. Surround yourselves with those people who have the same mantra you do, which is do unto others as you'd have done unto you. It's a pretty simple one, and I like it. I think we should go with that. So, all right, folks, I hope you enjoyed that, and always keep an open mind, and always search for the truth, because it will set you free. All right, more great music coming up next on our 90s Drive on Radio in Motion after a word from our sponsors.